dear Veristructor. You may be wondering when the pattern of silence is going to shift and when you're going to recognize a new pattern taking form where you can feel confident in resetting the math problem, starting back at 0, and you can feel confident knowing what's going on. In so many ways, that's what a box is. A box can, of course, be the physical shape. That is perhaps best described by the shape it takes on in corners. They're not squinches. They are very clearly corners. And what's interesting is in building things and constructing things, we humans have always favored sharp pattern changes in the formation of physical objects. We've also done this with belief systems, with spirituality, with ideology. To see a distinct break in pattern is a natural human process, especially a male one, but also a female one. Perhaps for men, the focus on physical objects is greater in this regard, but it's the same. It's the same thing we're seeking out, even if a woman does it with language more often. So we like boxes. We like them. We like the corners. They represent a distinct change in pattern. And that leads to rigid morality systems. And the beauty of this is it's easy to create a dualistic or a triadic setup for this concept, the concept of a box. But it's not. The physical space of a box lends itself to also the boxing in of truth into ideologies and belief systems. You yourself have noticed that if you were to maintain your belief system as a box, it quickly becomes a prison for you. So by all means, break out of that box. But your belief system also doesn't need to be a box. It can be a river. And that's why it's important to recognize this idea of pattern recognition. We seek pattern change. The greater the pattern change, the more attractive it is, the more we seek it out, and the bigger the hit we get. Sorry to be using that type of term, but the bigger the hit we get out of having that pattern change. It's why we seek out sugar. It's why we seek out supernormal stimuli. And it's the reason why, in a setup that has us believe that our society is bigger than 150 people, that you do need to know whether big nations are doing bad things or whether a particular person did something to someone else. You have to seek it out. It's an urge. And when we do that, we also build ourselves as boxes. We build ourselves as rigid, solid, good or evil creatures. That's unfortunate. So when thinking of the term Veristruct, we quickly start realizing that if you're taking a holistic approach, the struct in there and the struct in other words like instruct, destruct, there are many, many structs. There's struction, destructor. There's lots of structs that they don't just mean build in the physical sense. And that may be obvious with things like instruct. But it's also the case with construct. You can't construct a physical building without also constructing an ideology within you and constructing an ideology to take place in that space, a particular belief system to be ritualized in that space. So you could say to some degree that the act of building at all, the concept of build as a human untempered, has to be a box, even if it's a sphere. So how do we build to be rivers? How do we grow our minds into a fluidity and into a monumentality that is a river? How do we grow into a belief system? How do we grow into anything? And while not an answer forever, but certainly an answer for the next at least couple hundred years, is slow down. We move too fast to grow. We build too straight of lines to grow. We build too much to grow. When you build, you can't grow. And that's why we need the true way to build. That's why we need Veristruct. We need a word that helps us understand that grow is more than just a physical thing that you or I or a plant might do. It is also an answer. to building itself. That you were never supposed to just create boxes in your mind, in your life, for a job. You were always meant to grow instead of doing that. So at least for the next couple hundred years, we're going to need a term like Weierstrass to help explain why boxes are done. Boxes need to be done. We need to stop constructing, destructing, doing any kind of instructing boxes. We need to start Weierstrassing, which is growing, which is flowing, which is singing, letting our bodies sing. They were meant to sing. They were meant to resonate. They were always meant to flow. They were always meant to enjoy the journey, to have peace and to slow down. And so maybe in a world in which we are slowed down, Weierstrass will still have meaning, because it will still imply a growth within. That even if you were to slow down and you built less and you grew more physically, which would still grow you inside as well, to maximize that is really important. It's like the difference between having a bunch of plants in your home and legitimately having the proper relationship with them, which is that you do talk to them and you do enjoy their presence and they enjoy your presence for a particular amount of time. That's important. You have a connection, communication. Just to repeat real quick, this is an aside, but that relationship doesn't need to be long. It shouldn't be long. It should be very short. One plant doesn't need more than 5 minutes a week of your time. And you probably shouldn't give any one plant more than 30, 40 minutes of your time. Get more plants. If you're spending that much time with one plant, get more plants. To some degree, some plants, it's only 5 minutes a month, or every 2 months. It's a very short amount of time. So we seek out patterns, and in doing so, we create boxes. And then when we go to create, we think of creation as a box, as a shape, as a form, instead of a river of growth, of light, of water. You are a river. You are constantly flowing, not just interdimensionally. You are flowing all the time, physically, spiritually, psychologically. You are flowing. And to view it differently creates a disconnect between your choices and the consequences that you get. Don't touch the raging river as if it's a floor, a stable wooden stone floor. It will not work. You will get consequences that you weren't intending, which may include the very scary situation of being rushed down the river when you didn't even know there was a river there. And that's worse than just flowing with the rapids. You are a deep fountain of unique identity, Veristructor. Have a lovely week.